We are living the authentic life, and we're excited today to have Earlene Buggs with us.
Hi.
This hashtag girl boss. Wow. And can we just have a moment that she flew back in town? You're always traveling around the world.
I am.
You fly back in town. You come for the podcast today. And you look like this thinking it's just a voiceover. So guys and girls, if I'm not thinking of being videoed, I don't look like this. But can we just have a moment that you rock your style and your fashion and who you are no matter where you're going, because you are living the authentic life.
Thank you.
And what I love, there was so much to read about in your journey. What we were talking about before we started is what I admire is that you've been married so long to a strong man, as a strong woman whose voice is heard. Tell us about the secret to a long-term marriage. Teach me your ways, girl.
You know what? I wish there were a secret. And, I'm asked this question all the time because I'll be married 30 years in August. And it's been tough. I mean, it's been really difficult. And every time I'm asked this question, I try to answer it as authentically as I can. I have a son. He's 25, the love of my life. And that's the reason I'm still married. I just chose that, I knew that life would be more difficult for him had I got a divorce. I had so many reasons. You can have 1,000 reasons to divorce. You only need one reason to stay.
Oh my God, that's a retweet, girl. That gave me chills.
Yeah.
And I think there's, what I've said to friends is there's no one who will love your child as much as you other than their father.
Exactly.
And to go through life, and I was mentioning Bella's been through a really hard medical journey, and we saw a good friend of ours, Jorge Salazar. I don't know if you know April and Jorge. He's an incredible pediatric cardiologist. And I said, the interesting thing is Bella's health journey has brought us closer together.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of families, it's hard. And he said, yes, because he's operating on babies that are literally a day or two old. Oh, wow. And he said half the parents he works with end in divorce. Yeah. And I think that it goes back to purpose, and that's such a part of life that I find that everyone who's really living their best life, living a life that lights them on fire with people who are good people, it's because they're clear on their purpose and they're clear on what means most to them. So why don't you share about your journey to doing that, because you also help other people figure that out.
I do.
And it's difficult for some people because you have all these things now more than ever coming at us.
Right. I mean, I have to give my husband a lot of credit for the inspiration and for the goal and aspiration of our family, because he's always been the leader. He came up with the dream and the vision that we had as a family. And, he's always been, hell bent on leaving a legacy to this world. And, he was raised in that type of family. He received that kind of instruction and example from his grandfather, who only had a 4th grade education, by the way. Wow. But he was a longshoreman for many years, and he also had a real estate business. So when he died, his grandmother never had to work or whatever. And that's what he wanted for his family. And I think as an African American, it's even more tricky in this world because our men don't actually have a lot of the opportunities as our Caucasian counterparts. And so, yes, we've had to work harder. We've had to sacrifice a lot more. But I would give him all the credit because I come from a single parent home. My parents were divorced when I was 6 years old. So I actually don't have any memories of my mom being a wife. I had no idea. I had no idea what it was like to be a wife. So I had on-the-job training. And once I had my son, I said to myself, I'm going to commit to this for life, because I don't want him to have the same experience that I had, just coming from a place where I didn't really learn what love and commitment and respect looked like between a man and a woman. So I had to create that reality.
And was your husband's mother a strong force in his life that taught him how to love?
I'd say yes. She had a stroke when we were in high school. I was in 10th grade. He was in 11th grade. We were at school one day. His little brother, our high school was right down the street from where he lived, and his little brother came there looking for him because he couldn't get in the house. Well, his mom had passed out. She had an aneurysm and a stroke. And that particular day, 8 other people went to the hospital, and none of them survived. She was the only one that survived.
Now that's a God wink that she had a destiny to fulfill.
Exactly. So I feel like for him, she absolutely taught him. He told me this story, and I carried it on for my son. She would always tell him, God put you here to be a leader and a provider.
Wow.
And that's what men should do. And I carried it on with my son because, she taught him this is your responsibility. So he always assumed 100% responsibility, financially, the provision for our home, everything. And so I owe him a lot because I've honestly never had to work as a wife and a mother. He's always been providing for me. And so I've had the luxury to have a life that my mom wasn't accustomed to, and that, I saw her struggle for everything. She had to do everything. And here I am with a chef and an assistant and a housekeeper, and I'm still overwhelmed.
Struggling.
Yeah.
I know. We still can't. Takes a village.
Yeah.
But I feel like back when our parents were growing up, that it was more of a village and a community.
It was. And
that we all helped each other in a way that was different, because now we're all so busy doing things. So there's so many thoughts that come to mind.
Yeah.
Your husband taking responsibility. I feel like that's a big thing also in living authentically, is committing to do the work.
Right.
I think so many people, like you say, come up with the dream, come up with the lifestyle they want, but it is work.
It is work.
It's a choice every day, all day. It is. And then to empower people to do that, that's what the legacy is about.
Right.
Is it's not just about you,
right,
but it's about a community. So
yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we've been in business for a long time, and we had our fortune in the direct sales industry. But a part of that, we mentor and coach a large group of people. So one of my contributions to what we do, I started doing female empowerment. I found that women were extra interested in learning how to cope with the things that they had to do, because it's one thing to be a wife and a mother, but then you add professional, you add business owner on top of that. It's a lot, and juggling those hats is
juggle.
It's just sometimes it's too much,
And what I say is, and this became a reality, that for so long I was angry about it, but a man who takes on the responsibility of
right,
providing for his family,
right,
can always make the choice to take care of the business. Whereas a woman balancing it all,
right,
if our kids are most important, we have to choose our kids.
Yes.
And so I used to be frustrated with that, that I wasn't sharing in the burden of raising the kids. But now, with her health journey, I feel so blessed that I could.
Right.
Because that in itself has
right,
been the greatest gift.
Right.
Is that I could be there for her. And like you say, for the kids to know you're there for them.
Right.
And for them to know, because taking care of them and medical, and that's been another big part for me, is realizing if you didn't have the funds and you weren't taught, that a doctor tells you, no, it can't be done, that that you can't stop.
Right.
And that that you keep going. So how do you help people find their voice? Because it's even harder for women. Well,
absolutely. But I also think that it's that part of it for me was my own personal growth journey. Like I said, I'm a girl from the hood. My mom didn't have much, growing up. And, my dad was wealthy, but I'm not exactly proud of how he obtained his wealth. So it's not something that I ever truly benefited from. But I think it made me humble in a sense, but I still wanted more in life. And I knew that in order for me to to be the best wife, I had to continue to grow. So I didn't just leave it up to my husband to go out and make money. I knew in order for me to be the best wife, I had to continue to grow personally. And that was my own sense of personal responsibility. Let me get into books. Let me make sure I maintain the right kind of association. Let me make sure that I work on my own dream, because a lot of times when he's out doing the things that he needs to do, and then I'm at home, I got a complete different focus. We are not on the same page. It's,
amen to that.
You know what I mean? It's hard to.
It's so hard when you come back together. And so here's Grace Kelly, as I said, sometimes she's enters and she might even snore later, so don't take offense. But yeah, pre-COVID, Rob was flying to Hong Kong and he was going to shows all over the world. And I didn't want to leave Bella. I didn't want to leave her with a housekeeper or a nanny. I wanted to be present. So then when he comes back, if I wasn't full and I needed him to fill me up, and when they're out doing these big things with these people around them, we have to still be interesting and connected as their wives at home.
It's hard.
It is so hard. So tell us how you did it.
Well, I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I wasn't perfect at it, but I've always wanted to keep myself up physically and mentally. I do a lot of reading. I associate with people that I admire their life. Sometimes it's a matter of association. And
amen to that.
Yeah.
It's a big part of what I read for Blue Zones, people that live to be 100 years old, is that you surround yourself with a community of people that you can count on.
Right.
That do what they say they're going to do and are there for you.
Right.
And sometimes I get frustrated when people don't do what they say they're going to do. Sometimes there's reasons because their purpose is their kids or their purpose is their business, and but other times it's just we're wired differently.
Yeah.
So how do you coach people through that?
I just think that it's that personal growth journey, because we have to learn as human beings, and especially as women, to hold ourselves accountable. That's not something for society to do. So the better you are at you, the more work you do at learning and understanding yourself, I think it helps the situation. I don't know that it's just one thing for me, but I will say I decided that divorce wasn't an option for me. So regardless of what happened in our relationship, the things that I wasn't happy with, I knew that I would never leave the marriage. I made my decision on that. And then the second thing was I committed to my personal growth journey. Those are, I found myself, because a lot of times we can get so focused on what he's not doing, what we want him to do, who we want him to be, and we forget that we've got to grow and we've got to continue to stay current. We've also got to keep ourselves up, I think. And
amen to that. Because when we feel good, like when we have the endorphins from working out, when we dress in a certain way and can look in the mirror and feel good about who we are and how we present ourselves, it makes a difference. And it's so interesting. I didn't include, so I worked with a speech consultant and wrote a TED Talk that I haven't given yet, but about living authentically. And I do think, I know there were moments, I mean, Rob and I working together, there was so much conflict. We were older. We both had separate money, how we were going to spend our separate money, how our business was going to grow together. It is tough stuff.
That's a lot.
And when I decided I was never going to leave him, and I tell him, don't take advantage of that.
Yeah.
I better trust you with that.
Yeah.
But when I made that decision and I changed focusing on his problems and what I didn't like and totally focused on me, my mindset and our marriage improved.
Exactly.
And people said, so how did Rob? I'm like, Rob didn't change. I did.
Exactly.
And because of that, he did. And we did. And we grew.
Yeah.
And I think so many people look at it from the wrong way.
Well, I mean,
and society almost tells us that. Like, what's your man doing? How do you put up with that? That voice from your girlfriends?
Yeah.
You don't need to put up with that.
Yeah, well, how did it work out for you? Because how did it work out? And when you find yourself a single mother of 2 or 3 kids, what kind of man you think you're going to get at that point? You know, for African American women, 1 out of 4 of us will even get married. We marry at a 25% rate, and more than 80% of us are overweight. More than 80%. Now, we are very educated, as of late, that
Yes.
part has shifted, and that's a good thing. But the research shows that the more education you get, the less happy you are, and the less likely you are to stay in a marriage.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So when I do have these kinds of conversations with, my people, if you will, it is always understanding that there is a sacrifice to everything. Mm-hmm. And we are the ones that are actually tearing up our homes. So every time there's a divorce, our community gets weaker.
Amen to that. Mm-hmm. It's so true. And it's such a catch-22. My big advocacy is fighting trafficking and empowering women mm-hmm. to get out of abusive situations. Mm-hmm. So I even told Bella from the time she was young, I said, you have to be responsible for yourself financially. Mm-hmm. You need to be in a place that no matter what happens to you, you could take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's not the way you've grown up or become accustomed to, mm-hmm. but you can take care of yourself. And that is such a double-edged sword.
It is.
Because the more knowledge you get, the smarter you are, the more independent you feel, mm-hmm. the less the connection. And sometimes, mm-hmm. unless you're growing in a similar way. So I also think having the purpose of the family is mm-hmm. important and all of that too. So tell us about, how would someone go to your groups? Do you host events? Is it part of a training? Mm-hmm. How would people access this journey? I've been doing female empowerment for 15 years. And I have events maybe 3 to 4 times a year where mm-hmm. I do luncheons for women. During COVID, I also started doing a podcast that I would do every Sunday with my husband. Oh, great.
And I don't do it anymore because now we're back yes. open or whatever. But yeah, I do events, and it's open to the public. Awesome. And it's something that I'm really passionate about because I think in this modern age, women are made to believe that they have to choose between being independent and a family. And
yes.
and we have to learn how to be interdependent.
Yes.
So yes, I do want to be prepared because there are far more women in this world than it is men. So maybe I might wind up without a man and I might have to take care of myself. But I still need to learn how to part of our growth and development as women is also learning how to cooperate and be in relationship with a man. That's what our society is about. It's about relationships. It's about mm-hmm. other people. So sometimes the more education, like you just said, that we get, the more independent we feel, and the less we feel the need to really learn how to be in relationship with another man. Well, if you don't learn how to do that, it's a big part of your development that's not going to be there as a woman.
Absolutely. And
I've seen it happen so many times. And the friends of mine who have chosen that route, you're not any more happy. How is it working for you?
Yes.
You're having to struggle twice as hard because you're having to be the man and the woman in your relationship. You're having to take care of kids, earn the money. How is this better mm-hmm. than having a man that can share part of that burden with you? And I think we put too much emphasis on happiness and not enough emphasis on duty and responsibility.
I love that quote. So a therapist told us one time that there's 2 comments that I really believe, that the strongest marriages are autonomy with a connection.
Okay.
So 2 completely independent, strong people that can come together mm-hmm. and be connected. And I think that means that 2 people who are living their purpose, mm-hmm. clear on who they are, what fills them up, and then finding how to come together. It was interesting because Rob's passions are hunting and fishing, mm-hmm. and I grew up doing that with the dad and brother, and realized that I really prefer shopping and going to lunch and having,
Yeah.
So he's like, so we had to talk through what our vacations look like, how we come together. We can't just choose that he goes off with the boys and I go off, and how we come to a place together. Yeah. So it's opened a lot of conversation. Also, another, I just lost it. The comment. Okay, let's dive into something else. Mm-hmm. Tell us about parenthood. Mm-hmm. Because as I mentioned, I talk about Bella a lot. You can tell she's front and center in my mind.
Yeah.
Her 16th birthday's coming up.
Oh, yay.
So, and she likes me right now. She doesn't like Rob right now, but I'm sure it's going to fluctuate at any moment.
Yeah.
There's some parents that are super involved in their kids' life. There's some parents that let kids make mistakes. Like, tell us about how you and your son's relationship has evolved in parenting.
I honestly have the best relationship with my son. He is the absolute best and the love of my life. But we did have a rough patch with him when he first got to college. And, you know, as you know, to be any type of success in this world, it takes a lot of sacrifice. And in the beginning, you know, we worked really hard because we wanted to give him a certain type of life. And so we missed a lot. And I think he was angry about, you know, that sacrifice that he had to make. And I had to explain to him, I said, you know, honestly, Trey, there's a sacrifice to everything in life. You sacrifice even when you have nothing to show for it. Because I had the same sacrifice for my mom. She would be gone before I woke up, so she would leave me breakfast.
It's so true.
It's so true. And I would be up only 1 hour by the time she got home at night. So I saw my mom 1 hour a day for probably a 6-year period of time. And I didn't want that for you. I remember having to move a lot. I remember lights getting cut off. I remember only being able to get one gift for Christmas. There are so many things that drove me to make the sacrifices so that at least money and resources wouldn't be an issue for you. And it's so hard to make kids understand that's the way it is. Nothing in this world is free. Nobody's standing out in the street handing out $100 bills. Everything that you get in life, somebody has to pay the bill. And so it took us a while to help him to understand that once he became an adult and understood how hard it is to come by money, I think he forgave us because there was a lot of sacrifice. But I never worked, you know, and I told him I wasn't working a job, you know, I was working our business. And so, and then he and my husband went through, you know, where I was disappointed in both of them, you know, but I understand.
Oh my God, that's such a quote. Yes.
I was disappointed in both of them.
She's doing this, he's doing this.
Oh my God, they were driving me crazy because essentially they're the same person. And I would be in the middle.
Yes.
You know, and one day I just told him, to hell with this. You guys are not going to drive me to drink. And I need for you to get it together. And I remember this one day we were at Houston's and they were just arguing the whole time. And I just completely shut down on both of them. I didn't talk to either one of them for 3 days. And that was a turning point because they realized, you know, both of you have gone too far. This fighting is just, and I empathize with my husband because he has the responsibility of teaching a boy how to be a man. And as a woman, sometimes, you know, we want to nurture first when what kids need is structure and discipline, you know. And so I interfered a lot. I made a lot of mistakes and things that now looking back on it, I regret because thank God he had his father around. You grew up in a 2-parent home, which 80% of African American kids don't have.
Yes.
You know, so that's a huge benefit in life. But, you know, being a mother is the hardest thing I've ever done. I think you have the opportunity, even though it's not ideal, to get another husband, but you can't trade your kids.
Girl.
You're pretty much stuck with them for life. You know, but I mean, it's definitely been.
I love that. You can trade your husband and Rob. That could happen.
Yeah.
Except I just said I'm not leaving him.
No. Whatever you do, don't leave.
So let's talk about community. I'm so passionate. I just feel so connected to what you're saying about community because I feel like another part of blue zones where these people live to be centenarians is they have the experience of all these generations being together. And so the grandmother and the great grandmother and the kids and all, and another part of it was back in the 50s even, people would come together and you would talk. Even the men would go work on the cars. So it was the 80-year-old and the 60 and the 40 and the all the way down, and you could share. And now people are moving across the country and they're leaving, and you don't have this understanding of where you came from.
The culture, yes.
And how hard it was. I mean, my grandparents immigrated from Sicily through Ellis Island and literally had nothing. And there were Christmases my father got oranges instead of gifts. So, I mean, I heard the stories, again, that's so different than the way my life was and the way, but to have that relativity.
Yeah.
So let's talk about community. Are there certain charities that you connect with? Like, how do you interface? And do you believe that just giving a dollar amount or like setting up the systems?
Well, I mean, we have our own foundation. It's called the Boom Foundation, and our main focus is healthy nutrition for children. So we have dedicated our part of our philanthropic effort to that. And last year we did about 2 million servings of food, and we do things all over the world.
Through schools or through?
Well, through charities. One of our big charities is down in Mexico, and so we've done a lot of work there because we have a huge organization and a lot of business that we do in Mexico. So that's been one of the things. But I feel like the best and most significant work I do is with women, just helping them to remember who they are and to understand their worth and their significance, their value to society, because we are taught that we don't need men, or that an education is going to be the way, and all this stuff, and it's really destroyed our families and the connection that we have there. So I feel like my best work and my most significant work is with women, and I'll continue to do that for the rest of my life.
I love that. So when's your next event?
My next event is going to be in Prague coming up next month. I'm going to do just a small luncheon with some of our leaders out there. But I do...
In Prague, Czechoslovakia?
Yeah.
You go, girl! So Rob is Czech, and we went to Prague once, and we toured the Terezín concentration camp.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but it truly shook me in the way to think that there could be genocide in an area when people in the United States didn't even know it was happening.
Right.
And people were killed because of their religion. And it was really interesting to take Bella there, and but what a beautiful city. It survived so much from the war. The architecture is amazing.
It's my favorite architecture. I'm so inspired by European architecture. Yeah.
So how do you choose like where to go and what how you align with people in different cities?
Well, we go where the business is. We have a huge influx of European participation in our business right now, and they're doing really well. So my husband kind of makes those decisions on where where he should put his time and resources. And right now it's in Europe and Prague. Yeah, we have a good group of family members there. We call them family, but they've been doing really well.
Yes, I have my work family here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like the culture and the ambiance you build in your network of people is also a ministry.
It is.
You know what I mean? Because those are the people. Yes, we can impact parts of the world, sure, but you know what's really significant? The difference you make person to person with the people you spend the most time with. I find that a lot of times we have less of relationships, less significant connection with the people we're sitting right next to than we do with people from all over the world. So it means a lot to me to have an atmosphere of my distributors and my employees that they feel appreciated and loved and valued, because that's part of our legacy as well.
Absolutely. And pre-COVID, I had a breakup with a business partner and friend during COVID, which was kind of interesting because I feel like we all felt so much loss with that, and so much uncertainty,
so much trauma.
And then to have the end of something that was really I believed in, and sometimes it's more of the loss of the dream than anything, and then you question your judgment and all those things. But because I became so vulnerable, I became much more open, and I joined this group. Mine is a Bible study group, but I think people can do it with their workout group, with their business friends.
Exactly.
And we created this group of friends that supported one another, and we would send texts as support. And for us, it was scripture. But for other people, I sometimes just forward powerful statements or comments or quotes. And it made me realize that I was rushing through so much of life to get to the charity event to have that happen, whereas I wasn't being nice to the person checking me out at the grocery store and looking them in the eye and saying something kind to them, or talking to my Uber driver because I'm on the phone and I'm not engaging. But some of the most interesting conversations I've had is immigrants who are Uber drivers and their story from where they've come from and what their hope is for the future, or what challenges are going on with their family and why they're adding this driving when they can to just get extra money. So it does.
That just gave me chills.
It makes it was a way for me to rethink that even daily, just in the moments of stopping a little more and being more aware that could be the change the world needs.
Yeah, and more present. And I think what is so profound about what you said is that I have found in my life that the greatest lessons are on the other side of the greatest adversities.
Absolutely.
So I feel like instead of us focusing a lot on what happens in an experience, what was it that this experience came to teach me? And I think if you got that from that experience, it was totally worth it. Because
absolutely, that pain, that loss, I feel like you can't, almost now, I believe you can't feel light as brightly if you don't know darkness.
Exactly.
You can't feel joy so significantly if you didn't come from pain.
Yeah.
And when you feel it, name it. Because I feel like sometimes I was forgetting to say, or just, I call it awfulizing. Everything's so bad. Everything keeps going wrong.
Yeah.
And certainly that has been my week. But is that the focus, or is the focus Bella feels better?
Yeah.
I have this fun dance I'm going to do in a couple weeks. Like, what do I choose to focus on?
Yeah.
What do I let my mind go to?
Yeah.
Because there's so much control over that. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
About relationship, about success.
Yeah, because it's important. And I mean, that just challenged me to think about being, just more present, because what really matters in this world is the connection that we have with other people. That's what makes it all worthwhile. So if we are so busy doing life that we don't take the time out, that we take the simple moments of connection for granted, that's why we feel so much stress and, are overwhelmed, and we're not getting the most out of the day because we forget to include the experiences of people.
So how do you stay fit and keep your mind balanced? Do you like yoga? Are you a workout girl? What is your what gets your mojo going now?
I do work out. I work out 5 days a week. I do 3 miles a day.
Run?
No, I walk really fast. But
okay,
I do 3 miles in 40 minutes.
And do you listen to podcasts?
I do.
Watch? Okay.
I do. I listen to podcasts all day. That's my favorite pastime. And I read and I meditate. I do.
How did you learn to meditate? Because oftentimes really strong people have a hard time quieting their mind because there's so much to do and so much. So
well, meditation is not about quieting your mind. I learned it from a girl online called Emily Fletcher.
Okay.
She was recommended to me by a good friend of mine. And you do 2 sessions a day, 15 minutes, and you don't have to, it's no pressure.
So it's not like quiet your mind, it's helping you refocus.
Yeah, so she has a series of questions that she go through and little exercises that you do for the 15 minutes.
Okay.
She talks you through it. And if your mind drifts, it just drifts. It's no pressure to feel like you gotta completely shut the noise out of your mind. That's not how people's mind works. No.
I'm always like, I'm failing at meditation.
No, meditation is not supposed to be stressful.
I can't do this. That's what my daughter says. I can't meditate. I'm like, well, maybe you're working with the wrong tools. Maybe nope, I just can't meditate. I'm like, okay, well, just pray then. Like, everybody has their different things.
Yeah, you just let your mind do what you do, and the point is basically the discipline to set aside the 15 minutes twice a day. So that's really what it's about. It helps me feel so connected and just at ease.
And the breathing too.
Oh my God!
Do you use breathing to help you?
I do, because that's part of it. That's part of her guided meditation.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes when you take it in and blow it out, you can visualize letting go of whatever that is that's sticking to you that doesn't serve you.
Right. And I'm just practicing not taking anything personal.
Oh,
know,
okay, that's a good one.
And that's because, I mean, I'm an only child by my mom, but my dad had 9 other kids, including me. So I have a little sister that we sometimes fight, and it drives me insane, and I have to just let things go with her. So I'm learning to be a big sister, and take on that role. So that's a new role for me, because I grew up an only child, and so I'm having fun with that. But most of it, I feel like most of the conflict that we have is all in our mind. It's what's going on the inside. It has very little to do with what's happening person to person. We imagine more than ever takes place.
It's how we interpret it, and I think text is so hard. Like, we read text and email, and I'm like, Danette, read this. What do you think it meant? Yeah. And then we spend like 10 minutes trying to figure out what it meant and what the energy is, instead of just going, let it go.
Or picking up the phone and calling.
Yes, I do think sometimes that works in my favor. Sometimes I need to take a little time, and I'm learning that too. So I did finally, thank God, I'm having a senior moment, think of the other thing the therapist told me. She said the best marriages are those where one another can take influence from each other.
Oh.
And I thought that was interesting. So
by influence, would you mean that you can learn from each other, or?
The way I took it too is that when, for example, Rob would do something and I would say, don't ever do that again. Of course, that's going to make him shut down. So a lot of it too is learning, if you learn how to influence your spouse, is learning how to talk to your spouse. And so I was saying earlier, here's a great example of that, is forever I would get frustrated that he would leave to go fishing for a few weeks in the summer because I, for business, needed him, for parenting needed him, and he'd go off the grid because he's in Alaska. He can't get to a satellite phone. And so, and for me, I would try to understand he needs this, he needs to get away, he needs to unplug. And I appreciate that, but I feel abandoned. It was how to learn to share with him, and then to say, okay, I can see she's snoring.
Oh, that's what that was. I was like,
Grace Kelly's snoring. I'm boring her. She's like, I've heard this story so many times, Mom. And then I said, I want you to think of, so for example, we're going to Europe again this summer, and he's like, I don't like going to Paris because you shop too much. I'm like, well, it's what lights my soul on fire. It's and I can do it for work, and I can find ways to use points and stay at places, and it's with Bella, and it's sharing. How can we balance it all? So I almost think influence is more about negotiation than anything.
Okay.
And saying, this is important to me, and what if you could let go and not be mad at me for this, and come with me and enjoy it and know it builds the family, and I could let go and not be mad. So whenever I say, baby me a man, I know that is it.
Yeah. I mean, I think as women, we're always going to have that, part of us that want to challenge in that regard. And I think we just have to be smart about it. I know I've said a lot of things that I wish at this point in my life I could take back, and I realize, because here's the thing, a big part of a wife's responsibility, or in my opinion, I feel like the ultimate responsibility of a wife, is protecting her husband's ego and feeding it.
Oh,
and we have to know that. Protecting. Yeah.
I love that word.
Yeah. And we're not taught that in our homes.
We are not.
Right.
We're almost taught to question it in society today.
Right.
If we're a feminist and we believe that we have the rights that men have, we should question their ego.
Right.
When
or challenge it.
Challenge is the better word.
Yeah. And it just doesn't benefit us, because like I say, what do we win a lot of times wanting to be equal? I feel like feminism at its core is about choice. So we have to have the respect for one another to understand that, you should be free to make your choice without judgment or condemnation, and I should be free to make my choice. And as I choose family, I choose being someone's husband. I choose the more softer feminine side of life. I didn't want to be out hustling and having to earn money to make sure that the bills got paid. I wanted somebody that was going to take care of me and take care of my son, and I wanted to be free to raise my son and not to have to worry about those kinds of things. And so I think,
girl, if you are the photo of letting a man be responsible for the family, we're all in trouble. Because you are a girl boss completely. But I love that. Like, you still see him, but I mean, you are a strong woman, and you have built a following. You have changed lives. You have empowered people. You have made your community a better place. You have made a mark and a legacy. And when I met you years ago, I was intrigued by your energy and intrigued by your presence.
Oh, thank you.
And to reconnect with you, I felt a different energy, and I don't know what it was. But I think we both have grown so much than we first met. I guess we hadn't seen each other since pre-COVID. Now it's pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Exactly.
But let our adversity help us grow. And thank you for sharing that growth. Is there anything in parting that you haven't shared?
Well, I just want to say I'm really super proud of you. This has been phenomenal. Thank you for having me. I mean, and I'm in here in your business, and I'm so inspired by all of the fashion and all of the things I see around here, and and even the little time that I spent being reintroduced to your husband. I'm very proud of you, and I just want you to know that what you're doing, it matters, and I hope that you will continue.
I plan to. I do. And you just wonder, like, when you create a podcast, are people going to listen? And then you put it out there, and then when people care and they do listen, you're like, okay, well, if I just helped a couple people, it's okay.
Yeah.
But thankfully, more than a couple people. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of the journey. And thank you for living the authentic life and helping us in that journey.
You're welcome.
Guys, until we meet next week, have a good one.
Bye.